Thank you, Madam Secretary, for being here today. I want to ask you a couple questions about the Farm Bill, but I do want to note how pleased I am that we secured nearly $14 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act for rural clean energy programs at USDA, including nearly $10 billion for rural electric cooperatives. That funding is going to be incredibly important to help cooperatives and other entities across rural Colorado and the country transition to clean energy and lower energy costs for rural families. And, you know, I think it's critical that USDA implement these programs swiftly and effectively while ensuring that funds can be used in creative, flexible ways for the greatest benefit for our rural communities. I think this is one of the biggest opportunities that's in the Inflation Reduction Act, and I just want to call everybody's attention to that today. I wanted to mention something that you also mentioned in your opening remarks. From April to October of this year, I hosted 26 Farm Bill listening sessions across Colorado. And one consistent comment I heard over and over and over again was from rural community leaders, businesses, and farmers and ranchers of all sizes was the difficulty in accessing USDA programs, including rural development grants. These grants are exceedingly burdensome for Coloradans to access. We should not expect rural leaders, businesses, farmers, and ranchers to spend hundreds of hours filling out federal applications for grants. You mentioned this in your opening remarks a little bit. I just wonder what you can do and what we can do to make sure that the next Farm Bill listening sessions are about something other than the difficulty of accessing these programs. Could you just describe in more detail what you're doing?
Thank you for the chance to get into these details because it is, it's a lot to untangle. It's easy to say we need more, easier access to our programs. Then we've got to peel back that onion and say, what does it take to do that? So we've seen some good examples. So we're about to finalize a community facilities rule that should make some application systems easier. We're also investing in a new system for a new technology for our single-family housing application. So that's like the lowest resourced applicant, right? Someone who's applying for an affordable home loan. And changing the technology application should make it easier so they're not having to do it all written by hand. Can you imagine applying for a mortgage written by hand? Being able to do it on a platform will make it easier to self-populate some of that work. In Reconnect, over the 4 rounds that we've seen so far, we've seen dramatic improvement in terms of how our maps are working and interfacing, and we've heard good responses from folks about those improvements. The next thing that we need to do, and I think the Farm Bill is a great opportunity to do that, is to go through what are the statutory requirements that actually make an application harder. And I would happily provide any technical assistance you might have questions for that. In doing that, we might also identify sometimes it's our fault. It's regulations that are making it harder and finding ways to address that. And maybe looking at thresholds, right? If it's under a certain amount, recognizing that we have to balance risk as a lender, maybe if it's under a certain cost, we can make certain applications easier. So I think there are a lot of tools that we can use to do this, but it's going to take getting our hands dirty and getting into the details.
I mean, I wonder whether it would make sense for, if it really is the interaction of what is in legislation and what is regulatory, which I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm not the chair of this committee, but it would seem to me that putting some of your folks together and some of our folks together in a room to actually figure out what that looks like and what a set of targets might be for us to be able to reduce the paperwork, reduce the hours that are spent on this. I mean, none of this is productive. And in the years that I've been on the committee, it's never gotten better. So I think we'd like to make it better, and anything you can do.
Senator,
please.
If I could offer a friendly amendment to that, also
Sure.
including technical assistance providers. So the folks who are currently filling out the applications and saying that's wrong, that's people in our state and area offices. It's also nonprofits who are helping folks apply for some of these things. They can redline the applications, and I think they need to be part of this discussion so that we can identify the problems and then identify where they're coming from.
Sounds like we maybe need a task force of some kind to work on
I
this.
think that's an excellent suggestion.
Thank you,
Senator
Madam
Bennet.
Chair.
I do.
I will yield
will
the balance of my time.
We will follow up and love to have you involved in that.
Great,
So,
thank you.
Thank you very much.